Hey, what it do, y'all? I hope everyone has had a good day, good evening, good week thus far. Just coming at y'all with another quick live here. Um, just wanted to basically conclude what I was talking about with my initial live. I'll just chill here for basically like a few minutes, just lightly touching up on stuff until a few minutes pass, or I get more people watching and perhaps even chatting. But but yeah, I hope y'all have had a good one. This February has been an interesting month. FYI, I believe the last day of the month in this year of 2020 with February is actually going to be on the 29th, not the 28th. Oh, I see a few folk already. Hey, what it do, Cortez? Yo, what's up, Kinks? Yeah, we're gonna chop it up. I want to conclude on a few things, and yeah, I think y'all gonna like what I got to say. You know, so I'm just I got a lot of cooler lives coming up, man. I hope y'all be in for the good ride. Trying to switch it up out here on these YouTube streets. Um, but I think where I kind of want to go at with this, just starting out, because I had like several talking points, so I could pick up where I left off with a different type of live, and I think I kind of got something in mind here within the next few days. Um, I mean, all right, forget it. Let's just go in. Let's go in. Let's go in. All right. um, well, I'm currently based out of Kansas City right now, and it's like one of the epicenters of the Negro Baseball League, the NLB per se. And it was basically overall uh, provided as a safe haven for a lot of so-called black baseball players that weren't able to play in the MLB. Now, there was just a reason. There was just a recent news forecast per se of where the Kansas City Royals uh, majority stake owner was talking about how it was just sad that the black players weren't able to really play in the baseball league. And it took prominent figures like, oh man, see, here I am not even thinking about a lot of my history here. Uh, but there was a lot of prominent figures with some of the Negro baseball players, so-called black baseball players that Jackie Robinson, there you go. I believe, yeah, Jackie Robinson. He put us on the map with baseball, man. And but it's just giving y'all an idea because this where I'm going with this, man. I mean, back in the days, there was actually a lot of racial undertones with baseball as it was, when they finally decided to let so-called black people play baseball, right? Especially down south. Now, we could talk about NASCAR another day because that's another subject as far as you seeing blacks being able to jump into race cars. That's another story altogether. You talking about trying to to go around the oval against rednecks and you had a better car than a redneck, man. Now that, and I'm not trying to go off the subject too much, but you go to Oklahoma, they don't play that. The brothers out there got some nice cars that they take on the drag strip, and they be giving these boys the run for the money with their little drag racing cars. But here nor there. But let's get back to this baseball thing before I really go in. Uh, okay, now there was they had a lot of different racial baseball teams, and one of those teams was called the Rednecks down south, right? And then there was a black baseball team eventually that showed up, but they wouldn't let them play, or per se, they played in that league under the name of the blacks had to take on this name, the niggas. Yeah, they literally had to take on the name, the niggas, and they used the mascot that they had to use. Man, it's going to really flip y'all out, and y'all can look this stuff up. But You'll see what I mean by the face of the mascot. But check this out. Uh, the niggas, they had their team that they played against the Rednecks and other white baseball teams before the Major League Baseball was formed per se, and the black team called the niggas was whooping them, whooping all those teams down south, and pretty much it just became more widespread, you know, as far as a lot of black teams across the United States just surpassing everybody in baseball. We just talking about baseball, right? But with this black team per se, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they ended up being transferred out to let's just say they got transferred. I don't want to go off and give y'all any type of false information or anything like that. But what I will say is they ended up leaving the South, right? But then eventually a lot of the remnants of that niggas baseball team ended up in Cleveland. Okay. Now, the mascot of the niggas logo looks just like the logo for that team called the Cleveland Indians. They just made it a little redder, and yeah, you'll see what I mean. Basically, the niggas logo is identical to the current Cleveland Indians logo. But see, there's a lot of dynamics in that, because if you know your history, the niggas were the actual Indians. So it's just putting things in a much larger perspective as far as a lot of this stuff that's been held back from so-called black people as far as the progression in history. Now, over here at my channel, for those who are new to my channel, I talk a lot about Lone Wolf and how, as of late, I've been trying to separate Lone Wolf from Sigma, because even in the wild, Lone Wolf is not what people think it is, you know, and it has nothing to do with Sigma or anything that people pertain to what Lone Wolf is. And oh, as far as the Chief is literally, it's funny you said that, Kings, as far as the Chiefs go, because they be saying here in Kansas City, what about them Chiefs? You know, when you want, you know, you better make sure you're on the side of the Chiefs. You better not be rocking nobody else. But see, you know, I'm personally a Seahawks fan, but that's here nor there. But I don't know a lot about the Chiefs, but I'm pretty sure there's a similar undertone to that as far as a lot of the mascot boycotts that would eventually take place down the road, because people see that, you know, they were pretty much racially scrutinized per se and put on the logo of a baseball team. So I'm pretty sure there's some parallels there with the Chiefs, you know. But, you know, the funny thing is, actually, some people would say, well, you know, you got some sellout Indians that go there, and during halftime, they actually, you know, they do that little tomahawk wave that they do there at Arrowhead. And that is true. You do see that. But here nor there, I mean, I can't really speak too much more on that, because there's not more I can really expand with that. It's just pretty much self-explanatory. I've even seen some of them riding. Yeah, they'll ride in on a horse, or you'll get like someone that you know isn't like, you know, someone, let's just say, of a European background. You'll see them riding around with a war bonnet. Especially, you'll see some women do it now. That's really the crazy part, because only men wore the war bonnets. When you see a chick wearing a war bonnet, that's not cool, because that's not how it was on the plains. Only the men wore the war bonnet. You know, the chiefs, the ones that were going out there to war. You know, but let me kind of get back to what I was saying. Like, what I'm trying to tie in with this whole thing with the Lone Wolf versus Sigma instead of Sigma. And there's some elements to Sigma with what I'm trying to say with this whole Black history per se. Because I believe there's a newer generation of Black people that have been put upon this planet. You know what I'm saying? And my thing is that you Black men are basically like, you're the pioneer. And that's pretty much someone that is born of a special origin, and you're put here on this planet to do something very special. You know what I'm saying? And so that's pretty much, in essence, like, to me, that's definitely like Lone Wolf in many ways, because you were put here to do something very special. That's why you were always treated a certain way ever since you were young. You never fitted in with your family. And so the Sigma part to me comes from, you may have a group of Black men who were also born in similar environments, but they were outcasted. You know, they were bullied, they were betas in their environment. And so they never really had a chance to stand for themselves. So they had to find another way to do that. They had to find another way to do that, per se. And that way was in identity. You know, some people try to pertain Sigma to personality, when really, to me, it's just identity. You're just trying to have an identity. You didn't have an identity, you know. And so with men that were born and they knew they were going to be pioneers, it's a different level of you understanding your true identity, of you knowing that you were set apart, you were born that way. So pioneer is on a higher frequency than someone that's a leader. You're beyond the leader, because you're like literally paving the way. You're pretty much setting forth a path that no one has walked down, but you're leaving a path behind you for others to follow. You know, you want people to follow your footsteps. And there's not enough Black men, per se, quote unquote, so-called Black men, that are pioneers. We talk about leaders all the time, okay? We always talk about, well, we don't have enough Black leaders. Well, we don't have enough Black pioneers. But that's fine, because I think with this idea of there being pioneers, there shouldn't be many in the first place, you know? And there's a lot of guys that are under different banners, monikers, identities, movements, that are doing things for themselves, but they're not really trying to pave the way. Okay, see, now you see the difference. You know, you got people doing things for themselves, and they're not paving the way. And that's where we're at right now, especially amongst the so-called Black community. Nobody's not really paving the way. Okay, there is destruction going on, but let's pave the way into a different direction from that destruction that is looming, that is imminent, or that is current. Who's paving the way? You have to pretty much be very selfless. You have to be pretty much very passionate. You have to be pretty much, in many ways, artistic. You have to see a future that other people can't see. Yeah. And okay, so Sigma, okay, I see what you're saying, Kings. So Sigma are leaders, not alphas. They lead by example. Well, the thing with Sigma is that they're not really trying to be a leader. They can, but they really don't try to be leaders. As far as them leading by example, that goes back to, once again, them not really leading at all. And if they do have an example, it's just more so they're just being self-explanatory. So it goes back to that self. It's just them having a certain way they choose to live their life. And I guess if you get some kick out of that, kudos, good for you. My thing about Sigma is that, you know, Sigma means rebel. Alpha does mean leader. And you do have a lot of guys who claim they're alpha, but they're not real leaders. You know what I'm saying? And you can't lead yourself. You know, the lead requires a group. And from what I've gathered with this whole alpha thing, it's not the baddest and the cockiest and the guy with the most game or the testosterone that gets the most out of leadership, you know, because alpha should mean leadership. So let's just talk leadership. You don't have to be the biggest and the baddest guy in the room to be an effective leader. You know what I'm saying? You can, you look at different types of chimpanzees, and even if you look on the human paradigm, sometimes it's the person that cares about other people. Because you see, like, you go to the zoos, you see chimps, they be trying to groom each other, you know, and usually that's the one that's the real leader, not the one that's real cocky, not the one that's beating his chest out. It's the one that's going to the other chimps, grooming each other's hair. That's the one that's actually a leader. So in the human paradigm, that means the person that's really the most effective leader is the one that's just very calm and very considerate about other people's emotions, if you will. I mean, you have a certain agenda, you have a certain direction, but you still show a lot of compassion. That is definitely a realm of leadership I have not seen amongst these guys that call themselves alpha. Yeah. Oh yeah, Kings, with this idea of that's what I'm saying, like with Lone Wolf, it's totally on a higher frequency than Sigma and Alpha. Because, you know, in the wild, like with Lone Wolf, the way actual wolves are when they are going through that sense of lone, if you will, they're just being pioneers for the pack. They left the pack, and see, people think pack means group. Pack does not mean group. See, even when they operate as a pack, they're still individuals. There's no hierarchy within the wolf pack. They're just family. Wolves think as families. They don't think as hierarchy. But people misunderstand, and that's what I'm saying. Like, people really don't understand what it means to be like lone wolf. And so upon my studies and upon what I figured out, what I've realized and what I've known for myself all along, I mean, I've known now up to this point without a shadow of doubt, lone wolf and Sigma are not the same. But yeah, within the black paradigm, there's definitely some guys that you can say have a Sigma background, you know, and there are some guys who have a lone wolf background. Those lone wolves are the pioneers. They are the ones that have walked from the pack, and they're paving the way, you know, and they're going to pave the way. They're going to pave the way. Let's put it that way. Because if we look at history as a whole, they're going to pave the way. I can't necessarily say in the past that so-called black men have paved the way. A lot of our efforts have been pretty much smothered. I mean, George Washington Carver, he paved the way for so much of humanity just with his idea on soy. You know, soy has changed the whole world. Some of us depend on soy for the way that we eat. Soy you use in everything. And that's all from one man who was castrated. A man that was castrated, you know? That's the thing. So he tried to be the best pioneer that he could, even amongst a group of people that didn't represent him. He went to Henry Ford. He gave Henry Ford the idea of the assembly line. Ford wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for Henry Ford getting ideas from George Washington Carver. See, George Washington Carver saw Henry Ford as a friend. There was actually another prominent so-called black man coming up at the time who also was building cars, and they said his cars were better than Rolls-Royce. Now, I think once this stream is over with, if I find this information, I'll just put it as a pin in the chat section. But this guy, this other so-called black man, he built cars better than Rolls-Royces. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much slapped Rolls-Royce in the back of their head, and they wanted to step up. And they learned a lot from his engineering techniques, and voila, you know, we know Rolls-Royce for what it is today. But getting back to this Ford thing, a lot of people don't know some of the designers that were at Ford were so-called black designers. Same thing at Cadillac. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these modern car companies wouldn't be where they are today if it wasn't for a so-called black man that was a pioneer in their company. And, you know, he was a lone wolf in their company. And there have been some so-called black women that were lone wolves too. The pioneer part, because Sigma is not about being a pioneer. Sigma is not about being a leader, okay? The lone wolf part is definitely about being a pioneer, because pioneer is actually a step above leader. It's actually a step beyond being a leader, because you're doing things that the leaders can't even do because they don't see that far ahead into the future. They're dealing with the now, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to make sure those people in the now don't go back into the past, you know, because you don't want history to repeat itself. You know what I'm saying? You want to know about the past, but you don't want to go back into the past. So you're trying to make sure people don't do that. But we don't have leaders in the so-called black community that are directing the people in such a way. But yeah, there were some quote unquote pioneer black women, so-called black women that were involved in NASA, you know, helped them with the space program. There's a movie out about it. We know about it, you know? And that's the thing. I don't even, yeah, Kings, I don't even acknowledge if a man doesn't have leadership, he's not alpha. You know, it's in you or it's not in you. Whether you were taught or a lot of things came to you naturally, you know, just because you have a certain spiritual, you have a certain spiritual aura about you that understands leadership. You know, these guys, they don't have no sense of leadership, and they don't have any type of empowerment. You have some influencement. You have some influences about you, but you have no true empowerment of keeping people 10 toes above the ground per se. You know what I'm saying? And it's not really getting people to the next level of life in the Renaissance. We could go really large with this thing. You know, if it's nothing progressive, it's not alpha. That's not alpha to me. You know, uh, you got to be a true leader to be alpha. Alpha means leader. But just to kind of continue on, because I don't want this lie to be too long. But yeah, look at the fact that, like, you know, going back to this lone wolf thing about some so-called black people, you know, especially the black men, because, you know, it should really be the black men that are out on the forefront. You know what I'm saying? The women should actually support those men that are out on the forefront as pioneers. You know, you may have some women that showed their intellect at times, but unfortunately, they were part of another agenda that they didn't realize. You know what I'm saying? And some realize as time goes on, you know what I'm saying? But that's another story. But with the men that are out there as the pioneers, as these lone wolf type, and you think about a wolf in itself, it's always demonized. You know, you see how most folks are scared of wolves. They demonize them. And so has not the so-called black man been demonized as well? He's been giving us bad stigma. Every time you see him on TV, it's because he's on the news being shot, being arrested, or he did something wrong to somebody. And they did the same thing with wolves too. Yeah, you know, they still had that stigma. So, so you got those who are rebels without a cause. So I always, to me, as far as even with this new crop of guys coming up, because, you know, I equate Sigma to rebel. You got rebels with a cause and you got rebels without a cause. There are only a few rebels with a cause. And I think with, you know, there's going to need to be a few rebels. You know, there's going to need that, but there's not enough so-called black men with that state of mind. You have all these brothers out here in gangs and they gang banging. They doing all this, but they ain't willing to be no soldier for the people. You willing to be a gang banger though, but you ain't willing to be the soldier for the people. You know what I'm saying? And the sad thing is, ironically, you have some of these same dudes that were from these gangs and they go off to still be a soldier. And they come back with all that gang banging mentality still in them. And in essence, you just went and fought for a larger game. You know what I'm saying? Overseas. You know, you did your tour and you came back. It's crazy. You know, there's even that type of military gang banging that goes on. You know, you have, you know, guys, Semper Fidelis, you know, that's part of the military, Semper Fidelis. You know, you got Marines going at it with the Navy and all that, low key, just very low key stuff nobody don't know about. You know, they got these things they got going on against each other. You know, who's got the more elite branch of the military, and that's kind of almost like similar to gang banging, the way some of these guys do that. You think about why some of these shootouts happen at some of these military bases. It could be somebody from a different branch of the military just going there to shoot up the other branch. We don't know this stuff, but I'm just giving y'all somewhat of an idea of some of the military stuff that be going on. But getting back to this idea that you know, my thing, and I've shared this in a video before, for the real thinking black man, because you got people out here saying thinking black man, okay? For the real so-called black man that is thinking, the one that is the true pioneer, the one that was born a true lone wolf per se, you think like that lone wolf per se. You use your intellect just like that lone wolf does. You don't use your might, you know, and it's not that lone wolf is special. Wolves are special. You think as a wolf, not as a dog, okay? You know, you're not trying to be the top dog. You're trying to be smart like that wolf. You're trying to think smart out here. You know what I mean? So you look in the wild and you see how the wolves, they make it in the wild. And, you know, they don't, you know, with their solitary lifestyle, you know, they don't have all the claws like the mountain lions and the bears. You know, they don't have, you know, I mean, they have the fangs, but they're limited in other areas because they don't have the claws and things like that. You know, but they're smart. And of course, you get on the wrong side of a wolf's jaw, you're done with. And so the wolf uses what it can to its advantage, you know, the wolf that is alone at that time. And so for you, my brother, that's out there, that's really thinking, the time has come for you to really use your intellect, for you to really use and hone in all your skills to make this big difference as a pioneer. You know, understand the way your life is and the things that you're good at, you know what I'm saying? And use that to the best of your ability, to to pave the way, whatever way that is. You know, you want to find out how to pave the way, you know, because there ain't no pavement, literally. In the Black community, there's no pavement. There's no paving the way out of whatever destruction that we currently see before us. There's no paving of the way to somewhere else a little better, okay? There's no paving of the way. There's no new pavement being put down, you know? We just see destruction before our eyes, you know? I don't have time to just sit there with my popcorn and just look at the so-called Black community being destroyed when I could be out here paving the way in the best way that I can for my own reasons, for those that I would like to follow my footsteps. And of course, when I say my own reason, I mean my own reasons for what the Creator has put inside me, not selfish motives per se. But just to continue on to get to the meat of this live right now, my thing is, yes, Miss Adawahia, yeah, smart and swift. Yes, that's the idea with the lone wolf, smart and swift. That's right. But yeah, talking about Tyson Fury, the way he walked in versus the way Deontay Wilder walked in the ring of this last bout that they had, you know, their second bout. They fought once. Deontay Wilder won that fight, and the second bout, Tyson Fury won that particular fight. Man, the way Tyson Fury came in, he came in with the women carrying him on their shoulders, the king. Like, they catered to him, right? That was his nuts. They had the women, he had the women carry him in, bro. I'm like, yo, this is nuts. Then you see Deontay Wilder walk in. No women. You know what I'm saying? You know, and of course, you know, a man doesn't need women to prove that he's a king, the validation part, you know, but it's just to speak of a larger narrative. I saw the weight that was on Deontay Wilder's shoulders when he walked in, more than the weight that he tried to say he had with that suit that he walked in on. You know, it was a deeper weight than that. And he probably just didn't want to admit that. He had the whole weight of so-called Black identity on his shoulders, which really wasn't an identity. He just doesn't know that yet. You know, really, he had nobody supporting him. Nobody was there. He felt alone. I think there was this weight of loneliness on his shoulders as he was walking into that ring. But what he saw in Tyson Fury, he saw that Tyson Fury had people supporting him. He had those women supporting him, literally, you know, bring him to the ring. Deontay Wilder didn't have that support. What, you had a rapper that walked you into the ring? Man, that's like typical, I'm sorry, that's typical Negro stuff. Us walking up and down the hood with the megaphone. In this case, this dude rapping with the microphone, and we just yelling, just talking the same talks. Nothing really changing though. You in the hood, you heard a guy preaching on the megaphone on a Sunday or a Saturday or even a Tuesday if it's a Bible study. But 2 blocks down, pop, 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 you know what I'm saying? Somebody gets shot. Okay, your words didn't mean anything. Words sometimes need to be followed by action. Okay. And sometimes you have to think, are the words you saying valid? See, you got a lot of people talking, especially those who call themselves Black. Your words are not valid no more. Maybe they were valid years ago, but there was a lack of action on those words. Your words are outdated. And especially if you had no action with those words. So everything needs to be updated. Your words plus your actions. There's not enough actions. There's not enough words that I'm hearing from so-called Black people, because you really don't have a certain identity to identify with your words and actions. Folk just need to be pressing that update button, that upgrade button. That's what needs to happen. And I don't see it. I don't see it. I'm sorry. Folk have downgraded themselves. And I saw that with the weight that was on Deontay Wilder's shoulders. Muhammad Ali, he talked about his era. But you know what? Muhammad Ali, he walked in that ring and he was by himself. But you know what? He was so proud. And that's how he eventually had people start to support him. I see a warrior spirit in Deontay Wilder, but I don't see this sense of proudness. You know what I'm saying? I saw this sense of him feeling burdened. He just didn't realize. Like I told y'all in the last live, Deontay was just saying that, like, yo, he just had a lot of other things going on in his mind. In the meantime, per se, you have Tyson Fury showing up with his Fury with the king robe on, right? Had that king robe on in the crown. And it was crazy because the news reporters were talking so much about his gypsy heritage, right? Him being a gypsy, all this gypsy. Because, you know, he calls himself the Gypsy King. Keep that in mind, the word gypsy. But they was talking so much about his gypsy heritage, right? And then when Deontay Wilder walked in, he was not talking, they was not talking about his black heritage because they despise black heritage, man. They see it as a parasite. But ironically, remember, keeping word that mind Gypsy. Gypsy, the ancestors of Gypsy were so-called black, okay? They were so-called black. So, you know, them Gypsies descended from black people, per se, you know, but people don't know that. People ain't peeping that. But the thing I thought that was so cool, though, about Tyson Fury, he walked in that ring knowing he was a king. He didn't talk about his people, even though he does know that he's a Gypsy king, but that's part of his identity. He didn't have to speak on that and have people parade behind him talking about that. He just walked into the ring to be a king. He was ready to go to war. And that's what you do. See, with Deontay Wilder, he didn't walk into that ring with identity of who he is as a warrior. And we're going to get to that part because Deontay Wilder is a warrior. And I'm going to tell y'all how. But he hasn't tapped in fully with this warrior mentality. He has a part of it, but he doesn't have its entirety. And that could have helped him that night, even though the odds were kind of stacked against him because Tyson Fury, he stepped his game up. But had Deontay Wilder tapped into that warrior side, that spiritual warrior that he is, he would have still won that fight. I believe it. I can see it in Deontay. And if somehow you watching this video, bro, I hope you can get back in that ring and you got some unfinished business, bro. You got some unfinished business. Much love, man. I hope you get back in that ring and you know you put on your Super Saiyan. You know what I'm saying? You bring out that warrior, man, because that's who you are, Deontay. You're a warrior, man. You're a warrior, okay? But you have to be around people that truly support you, that truly cares about you. So obviously, you knew that they wouldn't let you go out there with your shield, your training group. They gave up on you, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the entire so-called black community gave up on you that night too, when they were making fun of your suit that you wore. And obviously, this is no pun intended. I'm not talking about your suit. I'm just talking about the way the people were addressing you, and that's only because they talking about how you lost. See, had you won that fight, they wouldn't say nothing about your suit. And they'd be like, oh yeah, that suit looked like Black Panther Wakanda. You know what I'm saying? They'd be saying stuff like that. But the fact that you lost the fight, Deontay, now they like, oh, your black suit, you looking like Power Ranger. Because that's what I heard some people say that in some of these videos. I'm like, you know what? Folks are so hypocritical. The black community is so hypocritical. Right? But Deontay, you got to be around people that support you, even other so-called black people. If the majority of these folks ain't supporting you, that's not your community. You know, I don't care about no, quote, black community. Community, to me, is the people that support me, not some label, okay? The people that support me, that's my community. You know what I'm saying? And so I hope that even if Deontay don't fight again, Tyson Fury, y'all, I just hope he comes back into the ring as a true warrior. He reinvents himself. He understands this, because this is where I'm getting at with this. You know, this was only Deontay Wilder's first loss that he's ever had in his professional boxing career. Now, I'm under the impression that he's had elite boxers, but the most elite was definitely Tyson Fury. And that's only because he studied, you know, he studied more of the way so-called black boxers box. And even though Deontay Wilder isn't necessarily a skilled fighter, he still knew how to move. And that's what Tyson Fury was lacking. So he And Tyson Fury is a skilled fighter. So he just learned how to move like a black man with his skills. Boom, that's it. Now, all Deontay Wilder has to learn how to do is get skills with his natural movements he already can do. And then it's going to be a different ball game next time he fights, whether it is Tyson Fury or not. It's just going to be a different Deontay Wilder. You know, he already got the punch that's going to knock the soul out of you. But you mix that with refined skills, we ain't seen the last of Deontay Wilder yet. This is his first loss, okay? People not understanding. We have not seen the last of Deontay Wilder. And this is kind of where I'm getting at with this is, you know, he said that this fight was staged against him. And so my thing is that word stage has so many different meanings. Like from my perspective, it goes back to what I said earlier. Stage as far as people not really supporting him. Even this whole entire of the so-called black community, they didn't really have his back. That's why he felt that burden on his shoulders that he didn't realize. The burden of people not really having your back. Man, that's a tough burden to carry, man. It's a tough burden to carry. Now, for those that don't know, Deontay Wilder was his origins. I mean, because I didn't look up if he was born and raised, but I'm pretty sure he was born and raised. And he was born and raised in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, this is where I'm getting at with this warrior mentality that Deontay Wilder has. You look up Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa was named after a great Choctaw chief. Yeah, the Choctaw chief, so-called Native American per se. Yeah, it was Tuscaloosa. His name was Chief Tuscaloosa, the Choctaw chief. I can't even say it right, man. My bad, y'all. I'm from St. Louis, so you know we kind of we pronounce names a little off sometimes, but nevertheless, if you break down the word Tuscaloosa and the Choctaw word is Tuska Lusa. Tuska means warrior. Lusa means black. So the word that's black, okay, black warrior, because that's literally what happened when Hernando de Soto was confronted by Tuscaloosa, the black warrior, because he was confronted because it was during the Battle of Maliba. It was kind of like a village where a lot of the Choctaw people stay, and ironically, in that same area, you have the Muskogee that live there, and they had a similar word to Tuscaloosa, which is Tuscaloosa. So it's similar to how you pronounce it now phonetically, Tuscaloosa. So it's all similar, you know, and it means the same thing, black warrior, all the same. So I'm like, yeah, Deontay Wilder could be like a living remnant of Tuscaloosa, Chief Tuscaloosa. He could be the living remnant of it. Because check this out. Deontay Wilder, he stands at about, he's like 6'5", 6'5", 6'6". All right. Now, Chief Tuscaloosa, or Chief Black Warrior, he stood at 7 feet. Yeah, he was about 7 foot or over 7 foot tall. They say he was tall and he was dark. He was black. So there you go. So I'm like, you literally, when you see Deontay Wilder, you're looking at a modern interpretation of Chief Tuscaloosa. And given the fact that Deontay Wilder came from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So just putting all that together for y'all. So kind of want to talk about a few other things right quick before I wrap this live stream up. See, a lot of us know, and back in slavery, you had the house Negro and you had the field Negro. But y'all didn't know about that yard Negro. Yes, there was a yard Negro. And, you know, of course, you know, the Negroes that were the house Negroes, they tended to the house. The field Negroes, they tended to the field. And the yard Negroes tended to the yard, okay? So a lot of these modern landscaping ideas that you see out there, hardscape, landscape, thank the yard Negroes. So that's just a side note. So y'all know there was actually more than just the house Negro and the field Negro. You also had the yard Negroes. And maybe I could talk more about yard Negroes as time goes on, you know. But I just thought I'd share that with y'all, that little gem. So let me see what else we could talk about now. I just kind of want to wrap this up because I kind of been touching on some things about, you know, so-called Native American. Okay, now we talk about this idea of how this ties in with the identity of so-called black people, the true identity of most so-called black people. Now, what I've noticed was before the the I guess you could say the colonists, before they came over, a lot of the so-called Native American tribes were matrilineal and matriarchal. Okay, but that wasn't always the case. That wasn't always the case. And I'll talk about that as time goes on too. You know, but what I will say is, obviously, there was a lack of patriarchal principles and aspects of that in the culture. Okay. Now, this influenced a lot of the feminism that eventually took place even amongst the so-called Native American community, because they came from a lot of matrilineal and matriarchal families. So when the so-called white, well, they are white, forget so-called, they are white, I guess if you want to put it that way. But no, when the colonists came over here, when the outsiders came over here, they, when they had their mindset of what patriarchy was, that went against so-called Native American matriarchy, it made people feel some type of way. You know what I'm saying? It made people feel some type of way, and as far as the modern sedimentation that you get with a lot of so-called Native American women, they have a lot of this independent woman feministic mindset, because you got to remember, they grew up in a culture of matriarchy, especially amongst the Navajo Nation. You know what I'm saying? And they still have that. You see a lot of their elective councils. You see a lot of women on their board. It's kind of part of, they try to put the mother and the woman as far as the focal point of their culture. But it wasn't always that way. A lot of the so-called Native American cultures shift to matriarchal and matrilineal as time went on. Okay. But for the most part, before a lot of things became predominantly matrilineal and matriarchal amongst so-called Native Americans, they were more so egalitarian, meaning that everybody had an equal opportunity. Before equal opportunity existed, you had it amongst so-called Native Americans. And where I'm getting at with this is obviously amongst, so-called blacks, who are actually the Native Americans too. You just don't know it yet. Got the same issues going on right now with this whole matriarchy thing. So I'm just tying all that in together to let y'all kind of see how things went amongst the actual tribes per se, like the Navajo and things like that. Just to kind of expand on that idea of the natives, as we talk about egalitarian, I brought that up. Okay, now let's talk about the Hebraic side of things, because I got to bring that up because this ties in with this whole thing of being a pioneer. Okay, you be a pioneer, you have to be a pioneer in all fronts, because the so-called black community has no identity. You have a so-called Native American identity that you need to learn from, and it's stemmed from its origin in Hebraic culture. So not only do you need to understand the Hebraic side, but also how that ties in with your indigenous and your aboriginal side. But you look up even the Book of Mormon, it even ties in with Hebraic culture. A lot of books trace back to Hebraic culture. Yes, even the Book of Mormon, the Book of Nephi. Look it up. Get the Book of Mormon, read the Book of Nephi. Now, a lot of that, you see the parallels between Uto-Aztecan language, which is spoken by Paiute, Shoshone, Comanche, and a few other tribes out west, right? They speak this Uto-Aztecan language. And a lot of that has parallels with Hebraic language, okay? And of course, a lot of that was based on older histories of Semite and Egyptian. You kind of tie all that in, and you get some of the parallels and similar words in Uto-Aztecan language, because that's the language they speak, with the Comanche, the Shoshones, and the Paiutes. They speak that type of language. And of course, yeah, I mean, this all goes back to this area of Utah, because that's where you see the Paiutes, the Shoshones. They live there. The Comanches, what happened was the Comanches are actually just a separate band of the Shoshones. Some of them split it off and they went down to Texas. So that's what the Comanches are. The Comanches are a separate band of the Shoshones, basically. But yeah, all in that area of Utah, the Paiutes and the Shoshones, and of course, who's there? The Mormons in Utah. So when the Mormons came upon Utah and they saw these Paiutes and Shoshones speaking this Uto-Aztecan language based on what they knew from Semitic scriptures per se, and what they've probably learned from the Jews, you know, they tied that in. They was like, yo, these people speak a similar language. It sounds Hebraic. A lot of pronunciations and the phonetics are very similar, parallels, right? But I think I'm gonna wrap it up here, y'all. But I'm gonna leave y'all with this, man. And I appreciate everybody coming through and play this on the replay. I try to keep this under an hour so y'all can have time to actually check out this live. So, you know, oh yeah, keep reading that Book of Mormon, Miss Ottawa here. Keep reading that Book of Mormon. Yep. There's a lot of stuff in there, you know, a lot of stuff people don't understand. So, but I want to leave y'all with this. Because this whole mindset of being a pioneer only stems from someone with the mindset of the lone wolf, not the person that's a sigma, not the person that's an alpha. You know what I'm saying? You're truly a pioneer. You're not a leader. You're not a rebel. You're a pioneer. Now, there's nothing wrong with obviously someone being a leader. There's nothing wrong with somebody being a rebel as long as you're a rebel with a cause. But we also need pioneers too. Yours truly is a pioneer. Okay. So all those who may say I'm bashing alphas and sigmas, I'm not. You just got to be in the right state of mind with what you call yourself representing, right? But I'm gonna leave y'all with this because I speak from the mindset of a pioneer. I'm not trying to make a dollar off my people. I want my people to help me make dollars. All right. And that goes for all those on YouTube that, you know, you got people sending you money. That's cool. But what is that money for? Is it helping you to make money, or are they just sending you money? Okay. Where is your businesses at? Where are your businesses? What are you really up to? Like, you know, it should be some major stuff going on, you know, and I'm kind of like that. I don't want nobody really giving me money. Okay. I want you to contribute to a business I got, right? Of course, you could be a patron. I mean, if you want to buy some of my merchandise, that's cool, you know, but it's going to go towards a larger cause because you're actually helping me make money. I'm not trying to really make money off you. And that's the thing. You don't see that amongst most of the so-called Black community. Everybody trying to make money off each other. We're not trying to help each other make money. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not even about this money thing. It goes back to me the way our ancestors were here on this North American soil. Because my mindset of how I want people to help me make money instead of me making money off my people goes back to the barter system, the way that our so-called Native American ancestors used to actually practice e-commerce and finances per se, before the Europeans called themselves coming over here bringing this idea of money. Basically, the barter system was amongst the so-called Native Americans. We just trade. We trade. There was no money. There was no such thing as what a lot of so-called Native American people called frog skins. You know, they called the dollar bills frog skins, right? We were trading before these frog skin dollars showed up. So, you know, if somebody didn't have food, you give them some of your food. If they didn't have clothes, you give them some of your clothes. Maybe they traded in some time to help you with things at your home. So there was this fair exchange of things, man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody benefited. Everybody ate. Everybody was married. And literally everybody did get married too. That part too. One other thing I wanted to bring up because and I'm gonna just end it here right quick, is Crazy Horse. I love Crazy Horse. I feel I have the spirit of Crazy Horse because he was a different type of leader. You know what I'm saying? He was alpha in every way, even though he didn't act like these guys who claimed they're alpha. He wasn't out there beating his chest and things like that, but he had a certain mindset, you know what I'm saying? And he was just kind of to himself. You know, when he was around the people, he was a leader. He was doing his thing, but when he was by himself, he was to himself, re-energized. You know what I'm saying? Very low key, very mysterious. You know what I'm saying? But when he got around the people, he just had a way of getting the people motivated. And I think that's represents a very unique type of leader. And we need a lot of that. We have too many dudes and too many females, if you will, that aren't real women, all them running their mouth like that rapper that was in front of Deontay Wilder walking into the ring, rapping about all this black power stuff, but there's no power in your blackness. Because through black, there really isn't power. So you need to find out where that power is, where it lies, and how you can get that true empowerment. And this is why overall I'm not ADOS, just to tie it in with this whole topic and this whole subject matter. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no empowerment in it. There's no empowerment in it at all. Besides, you're tapping into other powers. The powers that be, if you will, that ain't gonna give you a dime. And also the powers of other people who don't even claim you, who don't even recognize you. Yes, the power of African people per se. Yes, the power of African people. Not only do they not recognize you, even though you're trying to feel empowered with them, they're literally knowing who you are in your lost identity. They know who you are. They know you represent the North American soil here, but they're coming over here and they're taking a piece of that power and they're taking a piece of that wealth and they're giving it back to their people back in Africa. I mean, it'd be nice if we went to work and we had money to give back to our people. No, we don't. We be at the nail salons. We be at the sneaker stores. We be at the beauty supply places. We be up in this joint trying to buy some new rims, right? We just want that little shiny thing. But we ain't trying to help each other shine. But, man, play this on replay, man. I try to keep it under an hour. I wasn't even trying to keep it going over 30 minutes, but there was just some extra things I wanted to talk about. I'm pretty sure I could have expanded on a few things. Maybe I'll pick up where I left off under a different title live stream down the road. But man, y'all be safe out there, be easy, and feel free to share this. Hopefully this makes sense to some of y'all. And until next time, signing out. Oh, right on. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad somebody liked my chuckles in the chat. I see that. Yep. Right on. Yeah, I gotta stay happy out here. Like the song said, don't worry. Be happy. All right, y'all. Signing out.